my best post of all time was basically like a 9-minute breakdown of our process. And I got like 10 likes and 2 comments. But like 2 ICPs emailed me directly and one of them became a customer. Welcome back to the Founder-Led Marketing Show, where we talk about how to create awareness, build trust, generate demand, and drive efficient growth for your B2B software startup. The topic for today is founder branding / personal branding, whichever term you prefer, versus founder-led marketing. I have a couple questions for Blaine. I think Blaine is a great person to talk about this because she does personal branding and she does it awesomely, I think. If you follow her LinkedIn, she's good at this stuff. Maybe you do like a 1-sentence intro of just like what you do with MarkMind, just so people have context, and then we just go into the topics and questions that I have.
Yeah, sure. So MarkMind is content marketing / ghostwriting agency. That's like the easiest way to explain it. We usually mostly work with founders and also their C-suite and like the B2B SaaS world, helping them cultivate an audience, translate their insights to the online world. So that's what I do in a nutshell.
And you do it for SaaS mainly, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. All right. So I want to start with definitions. So I'm gonna throw out a definition both for personal branding and founder-led marketing. And then you can give me your reaction to it, because maybe you think about personal branding completely differently. And then we can kind of go from there. So personal branding, the way that I think about it is, well, it's personal branding, right? So it's the person in the center. So we pick a person and the goal is to grow an audience for them, to grow their personal audience, whether that's on LinkedIn, whether that's on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. There's different platforms where you can do this, or cross platforms, blogging, whatever you pick. And so the goal is to build an audience of people who like, trust, and look forward to the content of that person. You can say you're going to scale the reputation or whatever, but it's really like build an audience for that person. And so essentially, you're trying to turn a person into an influencer. And so when we think about personal branding as a vehicle for company growth, right? Because we're talking, personal branding in the SaaS space for founders and C-suites, it's not about like becoming the next food blogger that everyone follows, right? It's using it as a vehicle for company growth. And the way that I think about how that connects is, if personal branding is kind of like trying to turn yourself into an influencer, then leveraging personal branding for company growth is like having an influencer who is associated with your company, right? If I have a company, whether it's a service or product company, whether I'm a marketing agency that does SEO services, or whether I'm a product agency that sells a marketing automation tool, HubSpot, right? And now imagine I have Chris Walker, a big influencer in the B2B marketing space associated with my company. That would be super valuable for me, right? If just Chris Walker would be associated with us, maybe he's an ambassador, he kind of name drops us every now and then, but he just does his own thing, talking about B2B marketing and sharing his insights and tips, building his own audience. In contrast, founder-led marketing, the goal is not so much to build the audience of the person, it's to grow the company and just to leverage the person's insights and opinions and perspective in the company growth, right? So for example, if you're a company, you have certain communication needs, right? You want to communicate certain things into the marketplace, who you are, what you do, what your product is, how it works, how it's different to competitors, with the benefits, the features. You want to communicate that you're experts in what you do. You want to communicate the company and the values and the mission and what you stand for. And so someone needs to communicate these things, right? You can do it through an anonymous blog post that the company publishes. You can do it through PR, where you have a third-party newspaper publish something about your company. You can have, a company ad that's just like a graphic image created by someone on your team that goes out into the world. Or you can communicate these things via your founder. So the founder explains in their own words what the company does, what they stand for, how the product works, what the features, benefits are, all the communication needs they communicate. Why? Because they're the founder, they represent the company, they probably understand the company and the product better than anyone else. And, you have that personal aspect. People say people buy from people. So you have more interesting if it's like you have a face attached to it and it's not some anonymous company blog post, sharing those things. So it's almost like personal branding. The first goal is to build the audience of the person. And then that trickles down almost through a halo effect to the company, where you have this big influencer now associated with the company, which is amazing. With founder-led marketing, it's almost the first goal is to grow the company. And then probably as a result of it, you're also going to be growing the followers of that person if you happen to be posting through their personal profile, for example. But it's not the primary goal. So that's my definition. You can pick it apart, you can disagree, but what's your reaction to that?
I think that's a fair definition, more than a definition, right? Going into like what it could do.
Right.
How I see it is like founder-led marketing is just a substack or a big part of founder branding. Because most likely what a founder wants to do with their brand is get more leads, is, convert those leads and earning more money. Most likely that is the biggest goal for a founder. But I also think whether it's like a SaaS founder that's building a big business, that person also has other needs, right? We're all multidimensional. And even though that company matters, they probably want to do other things. So I think that's where founder branding comes in, saying, okay, probably the biggest goal you have for the next few years is to grow the company, but you also want to be known in this other field, or you want to highlight other parts of your personality, background, so that if down the line you want to pivot and do something else or add something to your arsenal, you can. And I think at the end, it does depend on what, I don't even say it does depend on what a founder wants. Most likely they don't know what they want, right? So as for experts or what we do, we probably have to guide them.
Right.
But where I see founder-led marketing, like the biggest benefit to even the semantics, like you probably just can connect with much more like metric oriented people, because then you can say, okay, what does marketing do? Sale at scale, right? What we do is we just add the founder bit and we do that. So
right. Yeah.
From a selling perspective, that's what we do really helps. Yeah. And I think it's brilliant what you've done. So
So it's because I called this a debate. So I think this is interesting. So you just said that you see founder-led marketing almost like a subcategory of founder branding. I see the exact opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
I brought books.
Founder brand, hey, the OG, Dave Gerhardt.
Your book.
The book on the topic. So the reason why I think that founder branding, okay, I think so. If we think about the Venn diagram, right? Like here's founder-led marketing and here's founder branding. Clearly, there's a lot of overlap. If I had to draw it out, there's a lot of overlap. There's a small part of founder branding that is separate. That's not included in founder-led marketing. Most of it is included in founder-led marketing. And then there's all kinds of other things that also fall under founder-led marketing. So there's founder-led marketing, and then founder branding is a subcategory of it. The reason why I see it is in that way is this is for us, right? The people that we work with that were interested in personal branding, they were interested in it as a vehicle to grow the company.
Yeah.
This aspect of founder branding, where you share your expertise, where you talk about your company, I believe I call it founder-led marketing, right? But then there's these other parts where you kind of add this more personal aspect of maybe sharing your personal opinions, your travels, how you think about certain things, politics, work-life balance, family life, right? Sharing a picture of you and your family and how you decided to go on vacation there, right? All of that. And that can help with the company growth because that builds rapport, that, makes you more relatable. It often is the content that gets a lot of reach. So it's a lot of top of funnel awareness that might trickle down. But then all the other parts where you talk about your product, where you talk about the features, where you talk about all of those things are not part of founder branding necessarily. Depends on how you define it, right? I mean, different people have different approaches. Yeah. So this like personal aspect of the topics that we end up talking about with customers, that's like the personal branding part of it. But it's
Can I ask you a question? What's your ratio? I would assume, right, that you probably do like 80-20. Like 80 is company stuff, like product, how the product works, like customer success stuff, like, really highlighting things like this. And it's like domain expertise, all of that. And then 20% you're like, okay, then Donald, you can talk about other stuff that you do.
Donald.
Whatever. Right?
For us it's 12.5%.
Oh God.
So like, I don't know, like 10 to 15%. So we bucket it into 4 buckets: product, subject matter expertise, company and personal. And so product and subject matter expertise are kind of like the 80% of it. And then the remaining 20% are like 10% company. So that's like, hey, we grew this company. Hey, we opened this new office. Hey, we hired this key person. Hey, we had a company offsite. Hey, we're looking for new people, blah, blah, blah. And then 10% is this like personal, I'm traveling here. I listened to this podcast and I loved it. Like kind of more like classic, how a lot of people think about personal branding, not necessarily what it needs to be, right?
Very similar to how I do it. So that's
why you do funnel that marketing then.
Exactly. That's all. But I do think you guys focus a lot more on lead gen, just like purely from the way you're thinking of things and how you see stuff.
Demand gen, I think lead gen, but same thing.
Demand gen, sorry.
Drive it pipeline.
Filling pipeline.
Yeah.
Truly on that. And I think when I was like joining your last call, what you do so differently and what I want to do more of is adding the paid with the organic, right? Then you really enter marketing, marketing as we know it, and then you kind of which I think is
I guess one differentiator too is like where else do you use the content, right? Like most people, and I don't know, it would be interesting to see how you see it, but when they do personal branding, it goes out on their personal profiles, whether it's a LinkedIn profile or their Instagram profile and that's it. Right. Our goal was always like, sure, we're going to post it on your personal profile because it's just the best organic reach right now. But we want to make sure that we make this an organizational approach for the company so that we use this content where you talk about your product and what it does and the features in your company and what you stand for on all the company branded channels too. So the LinkedIn company page, a company YouTube channel, a company email newsletter, the website with a resources page, ads that are going out through the company brand, right? Through the company logo. Curious what you see there. Like, do you guys leverage that? We always got pushback on that for the personal. That's one of the reasons why I wanted to make that kind of pivot.
Yeah.
Is because like the way that a lot of people perceive personal branding, and that it's might be wrong, right? But how a lot of people perceive it is like, oh yeah, you're like post some like vacation pictures on your personal profile but like that's cute.
Yeah.
But like we still have to do like company marketing, like serious marketing,
I see that pushback even educating clients that come in, which is, it doesn't have to be like this fluffy stuff that's coming out of your profile. And I think part of it is learning the tone, right? Because I think some founders or anyone will be like, then this will be obvious. This is not something I would say, but there's a way to bridge the gap between it's coming from your profile, but yet it's like very domain expertise heavy, etc. But then I think you guys take it further, which is like leveraging everything you work with a founder and all of the different channels.
Right.
I haven't seen anyone doing it as much, and maybe we'll take it offline and go through the details of why exactly and how that's performing. But and it is probably just because of the way you start from the very beginning. It's very targeted, which is not as much as you guys do.
So you said on the last one that one of the topics you want us to talk about is the ROI of personal branding. So I thought I would actually have you share that. So from your perspective, and let's focus on founders of, whether it's a SaaS company, software company, tech company, what would you say to them? What's the ROI? Why would it make sense for them? In which cases might it make sense for them?
It always depends on the company and also what they're trying to solve for, right? Because you can't take every client. You can always tell like when someone comes in with a bit of an unrealistic expectation. But sometimes it's companies that are needing more enablement type of founder branding. Like you can tell that one of the issues that they're having trouble converting in the conversations is people, customers don't really understand how some of the products work. They don't know where to go, right? So a lot of the founders that we actually work with, they're still sales led, but they're very customer success heavy. Like they're SaaS products that take a bit of time for an implementation. So you need to have more content that is around enablement, where to go, how to, resolve certain issues. And it's saying, okay, the ROI is you have a smaller team. Don't you know that if you were to talk about the thing that you're doing within your company, that would also help not only your prospects, but your current customers so that they can stay longer, right? Like less churn, increasing customer satisfaction or whatever. The other thing could also be in terms of shortening your deal cycles. Like what would have taken you maybe 12 months, right? If we're doing this consistently over the next 6, you'll see that number will go down.
Right.
Really hard. And I'm still trying to get better at getting very specific, right? Like you've been doing this a little bit longer and I still want to get way better at attribution, which is hard with organic content, right? Like self-attribution, everything.
Yeah.
But I definitely want to take a much more quantitative approach to all of this, right? So I would love to even know how you're doing it, because sometimes branding, whatever, founder-led marketing makes a lot of sense in your head just because you're doing it for a while and you're like, I know it's there. But when you have numbers out there, it is a bit tough.
I have a follow-up question just to answer your question. We're still figuring this out too. So it used to be that we only reported on top level engagement metrics, right? Like Shield data, like likes and comments.
Yeah,
we then went one step further at one point where we not just looked at the likes of the post, but we actually manually went through every person who liked it and looked at other ICPs, right? Because if you get 50 likes on your post, but 45 of them are your own employees, and then the other 5 are colleagues and friends, it's that might be less strong than a post that gets 10 likes, but it's 10 ICPs who are not a customer yet. Right. So we did that super manual, but not so great.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah. Did you compare with, because some founders or some companies have already been posting, right? This old school type of content usually. And do you compare and say, okay, since we've started working,
no, we never did that, but that's actually smart. I like that. What we now started doing is that during the onboarding, and we, expanded our process and we increased our price. So now we're just much more involved with the companies that we work with. But now during the onboarding, we get access to their CRM, we get access to their website analytics, and as a requirement of working with us, they need to install self-reported attribution. And so that's how we're now measuring it, right? So before that, it was basically we had to have them already believe that the founder being out there talking about their product and the company is going to help them somehow in terms of actually growth and revenue and some real hard things. But we could never quantify it unless they had their metrics figured out, and they would report back to us saying, oh yeah, we had this customer who came to us and they mentioned that they saw my LinkedIn video and they became a customer. So thank you guys, right? But first of all, they would need to have that insight. And most of them don't, because we work with the founder and they might have an SDR team who has all the sales calls. And if they don't have any process in place to ask people how they heard about them, then that information never trickles back. And then even if they do know it, we would have to rely on them telling us, just saying, hey, by the way, we noticed that these leads came from there, right? And so now we're going to be much more proactive, being inside of their CRM, installing self-reported attribution, following how people move through the pipeline. I'm doing a baseline analysis when we onboard a customer based on their CRM data, looking back at their last 12 months, looking at what was their average win rate, what was their average sales cycle length, because oftentimes they also don't have that data. We might ask them hey, what's your sales cycle length? And they might be 6 to 9 months, right? But it's a ballpark that's in their head. And we can actually go back and look at what is it actually based on the deals that actually closed in the last 12 months, right? And then we have a baseline, and then 3 months later we can actually like compare, right? Did we have an impact 6 months later, et cetera? So that's how we're approaching it now. We're still like, this is still early on. We're still figuring this approach out.
Okay, so you probably no stress if this question is too early then. But it's a non-negotiable basically now. When you're signing a new client, you say, if you want to work with us, you need to install self-attribution and also let us into all this data.
Because we structure our deals in that way, what we now do is we say, we sign a 4-month contract. Before that, we had a 6-month contract, and then we would just renew, and it was based on did they like it or not. Now we do a 4-month contract, and at the end of the 3rd month, we do an analysis. And our promise or target is that we have generated qualified pipeline to the extent of the equal to or greater than the service fee that they've paid us to up to that point. So for us to be able to see, did we actually do that? Like, we need to be in their CRM, and there needs to be self-reported attribution, because otherwise we can't even, we're just hoping on them to tell us like, hey, yeah, this actually happened. Right. So, yeah.
I think it also positions you as a growth partner. That's actually that
was one of the main, I just didn't want to rely on people thinking like, oh yeah, personal branding or sounds kind of interesting, I believe in it. It's like, no, we're going to drive pipeline. And you'll see it or you don't, but you'll know after the end of the 3rd month. If we do, then we extend. If we don't, then we don't. Right. All right. I want to go back to, so you said ROI of personal branding. So you actually mentioned, them, sales enablement, improving win rate, shortening sales cycle. Again, I think about that as founder-led marketing, because you have the founder explain the product and the benefits and how it works and how it can be used, et cetera. How do you think about, so classic traditional personal branding to me is like personal, right? Like, I traveled here, like my work-life balance, I sleep 8 hours every night, and it's a priority to me. It's like, people talking about how they think about, oh, I love reading this book and here are my takeaways from it, right? Like, do you do that? And if yes, like, what's the ROI on that?
Short answer, yes. We do that. But again, it depends on which lens you look at, right? If you want to only look at it from a revenue perspective, maybe the ROI is not there. But if you look at it from a trust perspective and like humanizing someone, it does matter. And that's where, sometimes I have to take a stance, which is like everything cannot be quantifiable. And even, you and I understand that sometimes you build an affinity towards someone because of those things, right? Because you have a book club. Before, I don't know if you had a book club before I met you, but, I probably liked you a little bit more because I knew you liked books and I like books. I was like, okay, he's not just a personal branding agency founder, right? Yeah. So I think that's part of it. And even for the founders, some of them might be serial entrepreneurs, right? Like, and they don't have that one company, or they only plan on having this one venture. And down the line, they want to have like a portfolio of companies. So once you have someone that's more like that, then you need to highlight more than just their domain expertise, one niche.
Right.
So I think that's also why that matters, where you take a little bit more of that traditional personal branding stance. What I don't like about traditional personal branding is that it can be a little like goalless. I don't know if that's a word, right? But it can feel like, okay, just write online about all these things and eventually something good would happen. Like, there is some truth to that, right? Luck finding you, but it's not where you want to be in that for founders, or that's not how we want to position ourselves, or it doesn't make sense. So I think, you need to bridge both gaps, which is very target heavy, right? You want to increase leads or, like revenue attribution, whatever. And also this part, which is you're a human that is multifaceted, that will not just talk about this one domain expertise company thing.
Right. Yeah. The way that I kind of explain it is when you're on a sales call, the first 5 minutes, what do? You do small talk.
Rapport building.
Right. Like you're like, oh, I see you have the Daily Stoic, book in the background. I love that book. I love Ryan Holiday, right?
The plant.
I see you like plant. You do that. You're like, where are you based right now? Oh, I've been there. You do this for 5 minutes. It is to build rapport, to like kind of It's like the human equivalent of sniffing the butt that a dog does when they meet another dog. It's like you just kind of like assess the situation a little bit, try to get a read on the other person, and ideally you want to vibe with them. You want to find something in common, right? Even if you're like 95% different, you're trying to find the 5% where you have some overlap, some commonality that you can like, vibe on. And so that's important. But it's 5 minutes at the beginning, right? And then you still need to deliver on the product. The product needs to be great. You need to be able to explain the value and the ROI and the features and the benefits. You need to make sure that you're actually an expert in what you do and not just be great at, building rapport and schmoozing people, right? So it all matters, right? But you do want to make sure that there is this aspect of like building rapport, making sure that people see you as a person they can relate to and trust.
Can I add something to that? So I think there's one thing to mention more than just like rapport building, why it matters to like have those stories, but from like a pure algorithm perspective, which, who likes to chase algorithm, but you have to like face the truth. Like those things do push your numbers. So even if you're looking at it from like a numbers thing, like if you only like 85% is company stuff or 95%, that person won't even have the reach. So I think having a healthy balance also helps, right? Sprinkling in a few of those non-related things will also up your other stuff. And that's just what we've seen on a platform like LinkedIn. As much as
totally. No, I agree with you. How do you think about, so I posted this a couple of days ago that my best post of all time was organic post of all time was basically like a 9-minute breakdown of our process. And I got like 10 likes and 2 comments, but like 2 ICPs emailed me directly and one of them became a customer. So, and I heard actually Chris Walker talk about the same thing on a podcast from like this week or last week, where he talked about like the posts that I go viral for. Don't create the business for me. Like the posts that go viral is like, marketing is not magic. That goes viral. It doesn't create business. And then the 7-minute video where he goes like super deep and nuanced and detailed, some original idea that he has, that's actually what gets CMOs to reach out to him and say, hey, like, can we explore working together? So how do you think about that dichotomy where there's people chasing the likes and the views, getting like, 300 likes on, like my best post in the last couple of months was where I said, I became a father. It's like a picture of me with my little daughter. And it's like, I became a dad and I got like 200 likes and like that didn't generate business for me. How do you think about that dichotomy?
I have thought about it. So same, right? Like none of my viral posts are the ones where I got like, technically I generated business. However, later on in conversations, those do come up. So like, the lurkers, right? They're like, oh, and also you live in Portugal and you left Germany, blah, 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 from clients. So it's funny. Like there's also that piece. Like they might not convert from that one post, from that viral post, but again, hard to quantify. It might have created some affinity or like some company awareness or whatever. Like,
what's the one that gets them in the funnel, right? It's like, I post a picture with my daughter and like some random person who's never heard about me. It's like, oh, cute. They follow me or connect with me. And then 2 months later, they see that, 6-minute breakdown. Then like, okay.
Yeah.
They actually know what they're doing. So like,
I wish there was a visual, to be fair, to even explain this, because for a lot of it, I think that's what happens. Because then when you get into a conversation with them, you might realize they know much more about you than you thought, right? And you got converted from that one post.
Right.
So it's that one post that drives them over the edge because you show like testimonial, there's a case study, and they kind of already have seen you somehow, somewhere in Croatia, whatever.
Right.
Or you're talking about your grandma like so long ago. So yeah,
love it.
It is a dichotomy, but I think it's.
We have a question here, so I'll read it out by Mitanchu. Hey guys, love the sesh. One question. When working with a fresh founder account, do you keep the ICP focused content to personal ratio the same, or is it a bit more traffic focused until you get the account going? Okay, so the way I understand the question, when we talk about like more product and subject matter expertise content versus this like personal content, like do you start out with more of the personal to kind of build the top of funnel and then later go deeper into, or do you keep it the same? For us, it's the same basically. I'm curious what it's for you.
Oh, okay. Let's get a little debate then. Have experimented, but now it's much more, maybe like more personal and subject expertise, not like straight away domain and company, just to like, because I think it's also like, again, you might argue with this, but it's not to ask something from the platform, which is like, here is my company and this is what we do and this is how great. Again,
right. Yeah.
Fine, right? Because then you can almost tell when someone comes on LinkedIn because they need something. So I think, and again, this is a huge generalization. Like if you provide value, what is value? But if you come in more like sharing a bit of your story, or it could be like subject expertise, but it's more like on hiring or right. Like talent retention, whatever. Right. And it's not really what your company does. It's showing that you know stuff and then sprinkling in company stuff. I think just works more. Again, this is from like pure psychology perspective. I usually give a disclaimer, which is like, hey, we're not going to go in and just like talk about your company the whole time, because this is what I would want if someone was to take my brand. That's what I would prefer.
It's actually now that I think about it, it's actually, we don't keep it the same all throughout, but we actually do the exact opposite to what you do.
Come in and you're like.
So it used to be that we start out more with like, not necessarily more personal, but more like company kind of background, like founding story. Why did you start this business? What's your background? How did you get here? Starting with that and then kind of slowly like warming them up for like product and stuff. Now we actually start out with product. And the reason being that we added the LinkedIn ads channel. We found, at least, and we're experimenting with that right now, that product is great for getting the low-hanging fruit. And with product, I just mean we have an onboarding questionnaire and we ask them what are all the pain points that your product solves. And we just create one video or asset for each pain point that basically just addresses, expand on the pain point. Why is it a pain point? Why is it a problem? Why can't they keep going in this way? What have they tried before to solve it? How are they currently going about solving it? And then how does your product solve it? With a little kind of pitch at the end. Because those are like super essential assets that we want for the ads. And so we don't want to wait until month 3 where we can start running these ads. We want to get this low-hanging fruit right away. So we actually now start with the like classic like pain point product videos.
How have you seen that performing, or what's the?
So we're just starting this out with 2 customers we just onboarded, but for ourselves, it's those videos. It's interesting. There is an overlap between what performs organically and what performs in an ad. If it's subject matter expertise, if it's educational, but the ads that really drive signups and demos are the ones that have a pitch call to action at the end. It's almost the opposite of what you want to do in your organic content. It's like don't have a call to action, no pitch, just like share your insights and let people keep scrolling. With the ads, like for us, is a video what I would do as a head of marketing, right? Where I share kind of what I would do if I would come in as head of marketing, which is basically our full process. And then at the end, I actually say, this is what we do at Project 33 now when we work with customers. And this ad just absolutely is killing it for us right now, right? And so, because I think there is a difference between service businesses and product businesses, software. If you're a service business and it's a commoditized service, you offer SEO. How is someone going to decide? And there's a million SEO agencies out there, right? How is someone going to decide to work with your SEO agency and not someone else's? It's like, do they see you as an authority and do they like you, right? Do they think that you're super knowledgeable when it comes to SEO and marketing in general? And just do they like you? Do they vibe with you? When it comes to products, that matters. but it's a lot more on product differentiation.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how is your product actually different to what it can buy right now on the market? If you're selling me a marketing automation software, like, how are you different or better or more relevant to me than HubSpot? Right. And if you're just out there as a founder building rapport and you're so interesting and you're so fun, it's like nice, but I still like really need to know how you're better than HubSpot if I'm going to buy your product. Right. And then if it's a new product that doesn't exist on the market, it's a new category, there's nothing really to compare it to. You need to create all of that demand from scratch by speaking to the pain point, right? Like, there's something that your prospects are currently doing that's causing them pain. It's annoying. It's a hassle. It's taking so much time. It's costing so much money, but there's nothing really that they're aware of that they can look for to alleviate their pain. So you need to educate them like, hey, there is something out there that you could actually use, a software that will help you get rid of this pain. And so that's where we started, especially, and they don't do good organically. Right. Yeah, because they're super technical. They're super like specific to one ICP. Like, you're talking to a VP of engineering at a HR consulting company based in the US with 500 to 1,000 employees. Right. The chances that they're going to be in your network or somehow going to find that post organically, low. With the ads, we can just literally say directly target these people. And there might just be 500 of those people on LinkedIn, but we're going to reach them with the ad, right?
But if you start, and I'll play devil's advocate, right? Because I find it interesting. I mean, you've obviously thought of this, why you would start more with like product focus, pain point type of stuff. But, like the usual way to like go on LinkedIn, if you're not, because no one's like clicks on an ad, is like, I'm ready to buy, right? You go, of course you'll Google the company, but if you saw something on LinkedIn from a founder, you will go on their page. And if it's like one of the few things, if there's not much to like digest, do they not trickle off at that point? Or do you really think?
So the ad just leads to the website, and the ad is run through the company page, right? So our ad is run through Project 33. They watch the video, they click the thing, they go to our website and they book a demo. So not all of them actually land on my profile.
I'm thinking of, you're a different case because you've been, creating content for a while. So even if they were to like abandon, go back, they'll see stuff and they might, but I'm saying for the founders you're helping, if, because to go back to Mitanshu's question, like for the first, when you're starting with a fresh founder, you're taking this super product heavy pain point approach in the beginning. If that, a prospect clicks, they go on the website and they're like, okay, maybe go back on the founder's page and there's not much to see. Do you think that that's an issue or not really?
We've again, like, if you're really addressing a pain and they click on the ad and they have the pain, and then obviously you need to have a website that's actually, optimized and you have copy that resonates, like that matters obviously. But again, we're experimenting with this, but so far they don't really seem to care so much of going back to the founder. Again, it's almost like, right, people talk about like there's 3% are in market right now looking for a solution. And then there's 97% who are not looking to buy right now. Right. And so what you should do is address both. Right. And so it's almost like in the first couple of weeks, we want to collect the low hanging fruit, which is the 3% who's currently actively buying and looking for a solution and have that pain right now. Let's pick that fruit. And then we need to make sure that we build thought leadership and expertise and trust and credibility and rapport in the market so that the 97% of people who are currently not looking for a solution or don't have that pain point at all build affinity and get to know you and recognize your name so that if 6 months down the road they are in buying mode, that then you're the first solution that they think of without even having to stumble upon your ad in the right moment.
And I guess from your business perspective, it does make sense because you want to collect those early wins. Just like,
Yeah, we have a deadline, we have 3 months.
So you can't be like, this is how I want it to be a fact.
Yeah. My question to you, do you have any preference or have you seen anything at what stage it makes sense to build a personal brand? If we talk classic funding stages with pre-seed, seed, Series A, B, C, etc., or just the bootstrapped equivalent of that, pre-revenue, you're still building the product, you have $1 million in revenue, you have a team of 10, you have a team of 100. Does it work at all stages just the same? Is it more effective at certain stages and not others? What do you see? What's your opinion on when this makes sense to do?
So I learned the hard way that pre-seed is probably not the best. Should have been obvious. I had a really fun experience a few months back, trying to, again, on your own time, maybe like if you're a founder that wants to experiment, great. But if you're wanting an expert's help, or like you're hiring an agency like you or me, it doesn't make sense because you don't have product market fit.
Yep.
You don't know what works, like which positioning works. Your executive team or your team is not set up. You don't have a sales team, like all of that, right? Yep. So that should have been very clear to me. Maybe don't take a client. So one, there's that. I don't think it really makes sense. Well, I don't think there's a wrong time to build a personal brand, because especially if you're raising money,
right?
Actually, it makes a lot of sense to have a presence, right? So because it's very normal that any investor will like do their due diligence. A very easy way to go is on LinkedIn. If you seem like you know what you're talking about, like it does help your chances of raising money. So I think that makes sense. For me and who I work with, I think I think seed Series A is fine. It's actually a great place to be. You have your initial customers, you have traction, you have money in the bank. You're not struggling per se, even though you're not where you want to be, and you have lofty goals. And you know that if you have like the vehicle that you said that could like really accelerate things, it helps. But it's really important to have product market fit because the content will be really sloppy if not, because you're like changing what you're saying, you're changing your angles, and you will get frustrated because you don't really know what works in real life. Like you don't have customers, right? You don't know their pain points. So everything that you will do online will just get 10 times harder. So if you have that initial like traction, you have customers, they're telling you what they like, what they don't like, you have things on the roadmap, you also just have a lot more substance, right?
Totally.
Like too early, then it's a pain.
Yeah.
What I did.
Yeah. No, I see the same thing for us. I think when it's super early stage, pre-revenue, pre-seed, whatever, I think working with an agency or hiring someone, whether it's you, whether it's us, it's just too early. I think it's just what approach do you take? And I think in those stages, building in public, right? This thing that people, on Twitter, it's super big. In the indie community, it's super big. I think that's a great approach where you just, you don't have a product yet, or you don't know exactly. You're probably going to still be pivoting 5 more times. You have no idea who your ICP is or what they care about. You have none of that. But you can share what you're building, right? And like, hey, we're trying about, and that's great. But it probably doesn't make sense to try to scale that by hiring someone or bringing on a team or an agency or something like that. It's just literally you scrappily putting out some tweets and some LinkedIn posts on your own about like what your current thoughts are. And it's definitely helpful, but it's not, early stage sales, it needs to be you, because there's just so many iterations going on all the time, right? You're figuring it, like you're building the plane as you're falling down from the sky. So like you just can't allow yourself to hire a salesperson because you don't know what to train them on, and you can't expect them to figure it out for you. Right.
And the same companies that are probably hiring the VP of sales, too early, are the same one that will hire an agency too early. Like, that's probably not the kind of founders you want to work with either, because like the basic stuff is not in place, right? Yeah. And then the expectation will be wrong from the beginning, and they'll be frustrated and abandon personal branding because it doesn't work.
Totally. Like personal branding industry is proliferating. The amount of personal branding consultants out there is mind-boggling. I actually cleaned up my network recently and just removed all of these people. You survived because you're a real one. What are some things that you disagree with or that annoy you about like common beliefs or opinions when it comes to personal branding? I don't know, like obvious truth that everyone spews and you're just like, oh, really, you're going to say this for the 50th time? Is there anything like that where you're just like, people completely misunderstand this?
When people are like, just post, just get out there. So, no, I mean, it doesn't always help you. Like, I think personal branding, everything can't be good under personal branding. I think that's the issue, where like, as long as you're out there, that's all that matters. No. You should have a plan. You should know what you want to do with this. Like, of course you can iterate and like pivot and figure things out. But I think that advice is a little dangerous, is a strong word, but like, it's easy to burn out because you're like creating content for no reason. You don't know what's working because, like right now people are having a lot of FOMO. They know that people are posting on LinkedIn. They don't know if they should be doing it, but they just like jump on the bandwagon and just hope something, materializes out of it. I think that's pretty bad. I think where everyone is starting to kind of sound alike, which I've been guilty of like almost getting into that bucket as well, because you're like, there are things that are working that and then, but you should not lose your own opinions as well, or like your own way of writing, right? If everyone has the same templates, for everyone doing the same type of carousels, and again, you kind of have to play the game a little bit, right? You know what your goals are. My goal is, yes, increase my following, but to monetize my audience with this agency, right? And of course, I have other goals. So as long as I keep that in mind, and even if sometimes I get off track, that's fine. But if you're the kind of person that's like writing, like who, Finn is writing, or Jasmine, or all these really great creators, but they have a plan most likely, and then you're just like following suit, you're going to be frustrated really fast because you're doing things just because everyone else is doing them. So don't just follow templates blindly. Basically.
Now I have another 2 questions for you.
Okay.
If you just said, don't just post, like have a plan. If someone's, wants to start building a personal brand, what do you think is a good starting point? Like, where would you send them? What would you tell them? What is a good resource or a framework? I don't know, like how to start. First step.
Funnily enough, I think everyone knows Justin Welsh.
Yeah.
I do actually send them to that course because a lot of people are like, I want to get started on LinkedIn. They know that it's LinkedIn. They want to build an audience and they want to figure out their goal. And I think Justin's course is actually really good to start off with because it gives you like frameworks in terms of like explaining kind of how LinkedIn works, the basic stuff. It organizes your thoughts and all of the things you could talk about because usually the issue is I don't know what to talk about. I'm not an expert in anything.
Totally.
I don't know how to write. So I send them there because usually these people are like, they know they should be writing something, but they don't know which topics. And at least it organizes stuff for you. It gives you like, cadence, also combining like, okay, this topic with this framework. And you can still add your own twist and your own template, but it's like, okay, a how-to with this topic, which is, I love.
Like a matrix type of thing.
Matrix, great. Right? I think that does help you. I've sent a lot of people that course and they've always come back and have been very thankful.
I bought one of the 2. I think he has like 2 content hours and he has great frameworks. Okay. Last question. Who are some founders, software founders who you think are doing a great job with building the personal brand or building the following or posting on LinkedIn? You can weave in customers secretly, but anyone who comes to mind who you think is doing a really good job right now?
Yeah, there are the Lavender team is really good.
Okay.
I
don't know if I heard of that. No.
So they do it's a cold outreach tool. So it's, I guess, kind of B2C SaaS, to be fair. So like lower ticket. Will Allred, I think, is the co-founder. They're really good. Like a lot of their team members actually posting on there. What's his name? Guillaume Ubesh, which is like, I think he bought Tapio or Tweet Hunter, right? He's doing like talking about how to build profitable SaaS businesses. Really good way of like, I would consider his thing mostly founder branding in a way, but I know that he's obviously like increasing, clients or whatever. So I would say those two are really good ones. Chris Walker, not really SaaS, service-based business. He's
Right.
the big fan.
Right.
Just love the way he organizes his thoughts. Yeah. You're like a mini Chris Walker.
Definitely take a lot of inspiration from him. I don't know the first two. Would you be down to put the links in the in the thing? So both I and
can I say one thing about LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Which never ceases to like surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you're getting like in a tunnel vision, kind of like
bubble,
weird rock, like tunnel. Yeah. There's Guillaume.
Oh yeah, Lempire. Okay, him I know. Yeah, I've seen him.
And then this is Will. I'm surprised you don't know Lavender.
Maybe I do.
It's a cool outreach tool that basically makes your emails better.
Well, no, never seen this guy. Not a single time.
What? Yeah. This is what I mean. This is wild to me. For me,
totally.
This is like someone you see everywhere, or at least a company. So again, we live in like our own.
Yeah, it's the I had the same, by the way, Toby, you sent that to as a DM to me. I had the same thought the other day where sometimes you stumble upon a person on LinkedIn and they have like a lot of engagement and you're like, oh my God, I just found the new up and comer. Like this person's like, they're so interesting. So they're so insightful. Like, and then you look at the thing and you realize they've been posting for like a year plus getting this kind of engagement. You're like, how have I like literally never stumbled upon them, you know? And there's just these micro bubbles where
when people are like, is it too late to like come on LinkedIn? No. And even for us, I think sometimes you like feel like we've been doing this forever and like saturated. It's really not. There's so much room.
I have a question actually for you because like since you just said it, like is there still time to come to LinkedIn and everything? I think when you try to build pipeline and also educate the market, like at some point you have to repeat yourself, obviously. But how do you handle this kind of repeating yourself and not just talk about the same thing over and over again?
Through your content, you mean? Just like when you have like a subject, you're like a subject matter expertise and how not to repeat yourself all the time. I think one is remembering that I forget what the law is, right? For people to like really, digest something from someone, it takes repeating. It's actually what marketing is, right? In general. So it makes a lot of sense. People are not on your content all the time. We're not as important as everyone thinks we are, even though I know everyone's like waiting for my next post all the time. And I think it was Justin Welsh that used to say, know how to say one thing 100 different ways. So it's like changing up the format a little bit, like changing a little bit of the angle that you're talking about it, even though it's that one thing.
It's like is it like Bruce Lee quote where he's like, I don't fear the man who trained 1,000 punches. I fear the man who trained the same punch 1,000 times or something like that. Yeah.
So good. It's that's the LinkedIn influencer you should be, not the one that's
Bruce
like,
Lee, the OG.
Project management, branding, like you're like, okay, whatever. But if that one person's been consistent about talking about something, like, they're going to get somewhere. And I should take my own advice for that as well.
So we do this every week. Thank you for coming, Blaine. So we're going to do it next week again at the same time. And you can find the Founder Led Marketing Show on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all those things. Blaine, thank you so much for your time. This was awesome. If people, found this interesting, where did they find you?
They find me on LinkedIn, Blaine Wago.
There you go.
Yeah. See you there. DM me.
There. All right. We'll put the link to your profile also in the show notes, they say. I'm still learning all these. Find the link in the show notes below. All right. Thank you, Blaine.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.